Xerfi Global has recently published a report on European clothing retail chains. Europe represents a huge apparel market in terms of value, reaching €337.9 billion in 2014, but has been stunted somewhat by the stagnant economic environment hanging over the old continent. Annual average growth in European clothing and footwear sales has thus stood at a mere 0.3% from 2008 to 2013. However, this average does not reflect the considerable polarisation between major clothing chains and smaller players, which has been accentuated by the crisis. Indeed, in the last few years, leading clothing chains in Europe, particularly those with a large international presence, have shown higher resilience than minor players. The aggregate net sales of the 14 major players analysed in this report grew at an average annual rate of 6.9% from 2008 to 2013, far outpacing smaller competitors and increasing concentration of the sector. The market share of the retailers analysed in this report increased from 24.3% in 2010 to 28.6% in 2014. Nevertheless, it should be noted that this volume growth of major players has not only been to the detriment of competitors, but also of margins, which have been slipping by an average annual rate of 2.1% over the last 6 years. Volume and market share growth has been achieved by major players through several strategies, including e-commerce and multi-channel distribution, a focus on high-growth segments, and internationalization. One of large retailers' trump cards over smaller counterparts is to be found in e-commerce. Larger players have the volume and infrastructure to enter the online market, which has become a booming channel for the clothing industry. In 2013, online clothing retailing in Europe grew by an average 18.1%, although it should slacken slightly in 2014 to grow by 17.3%. This is good news for clothing retailers with an online presence, as it allows them to expand sales with minimum capital investment. Further to the e-commerce bonanza, retailers are implementing multi-channel distribution strategies combining traditional stores with group or brand websites, catalogues, mobile applications, and social media. Despite the risks of cannibalization between channels, research has shown that customers who interact with clothing retail companies over multiple channels tend to be more loyal and bring in more revenues than single-channel customers. In parallel, retailers are zoning in on particular segments with high potential, such as the male and seniors markets, two growing categories in Europe. In addition, major European clothing retailers are looking beyond their domestic market and are tapping into growth in other regions. In 2010, major players' European sales amounted to 65.2% of sales, America's 25.5%, and rest of world 9.3%, while in 2013, the breakdown had shifted away from Europe somewhat, which accounted for 63.2% of sales, America's 26.3%, and the rest of world 10.5%. The future of the European clothing market looks very slightly brighter, with sales expected to grow by 1% per year between 2014 and 2019. Nevertheless, Europe's share in the global apparel market will drop from 24.9% in 2013 to 21.9% in 2019, as growth will be driven by fast-growing regions, particularly Asia, meaning clothing retailers will continue to fight for market share in the face of minimum domestic growth.